If you see this circle question on the SAT, what do? Do you panic, try to plug it into Desmos, get nothing, and then give up? If so, watch this video and we'll fix that. Circle questions might seem a little scary, but they're actually pretty repetitive. The majority of circle questions you'll see come down to the circle equation. And sometimes you can just plug it into Desmos and get an answer, but not always. So let's start with something really basic. And this might sound boring, but I promise it's going to be worth it. What is a circle? How do you define a circle? Well, you might say it's like something round, but like this is kind of round. Maybe you say it doesn't have any bumps or something like that. But then you can have like these like ovally shapes. So what makes a circle a circle? And this video might give you a hint. So you're seeing when this guy tries to draw a perfect circle, he does it by finding a pivot and then going around with the same length. And that's exactly what defines a circle. You need a center of a circle and a specific length, which we call the radius. And a circle is literally just any point that's that length or radius away from the center. So if we move that into the coordinate plane, this might be an example of a circle where the center is 2, 1, and the radius is 3. So again, this is very key. As long as I give you the center, 2, 1, and the radius, 3, you know exactly what circle I'm talking about. Okay, how do we figure out if a point is on the circle? Here I have a point, 4, -1, and it looks like it's inside the circle, but it could be on the circle. Like maybe I didn't draw it perfectly. Well, again, what's the definition of a circle? This point is on the circle if the distance between it and 2, 1 is 3. If it's smaller than 3, then it's inside the circle, and if it's bigger than 3, then it's outside the circle. How do you find the distance? And here's a hint. So you can use the distance formula, which is basically the Pythagorean theorem, to find the distance. You find the horizontal and vertical distances, and that equals the distance squared. So the distance is equal to the square root of this. Now square roots are kind of ugly, so let's just keep it as the squared distance. And in this case, we get 4 plus 4 equals 8. So the distance is the square root of 8, which is less than 3, which means it is inside the circle, not on the circle. Okay, now all we have to do is replace our specific example with general variables. So let's say the center is h, k, and we want to figure out if x, y is on the circle. And finally, the radius doesn't have to be 3, it's just the general radius. And this is the circle formula. As I said, the majority of circle problems will use this formula, which is not on your reference sheet, so you should remember it. Or if you're not sure, now you know exactly how to get to this formula. Sometimes you'll see questions like, which point is inside the circle or outside the circle? And that's super straightforward. If it's inside, that means the distance is less than the radius. And if it's more than the radius, then it's outside. Really lock this in. If you're given a center and a radius, that defines the circle, and this is the equation that defines that circle. Be careful, especially with signs. For instance, if you see this question, what's the center of the circle? It's not 7, 3, but actually 7, -3 because of this plus sign instead of the minus sign in our formula. And let's do this real quick. If you have a circle, which is a center and a radius, and you translate it 4 units to the right, what happens? Well, the radius should stay the same, the y-coordinate of the center should stay the same, and the x-coordinate of the center should increase by 4, which gives us the answer. Here's some questions that should be super easy, just from what we've learned. And here's some questions that involve a little bit of algebra, completing the square, but that you should probably just plug into Desmos and solve on the SAT. And finally, let's do the problem from before. The circle has center -5, 2 and a radius of 9. So what's the equation of this circle? Well, we just plug it into the formula. X minus -5 becomes x plus 5. And it's telling us to put it in this form. So we do a tiny bit of algebra. And once we rearrange, we get this as our term, which is -52. And that's all you need to know to solve the majority of circle problems.